If you want to have healthy, fulfilling relationships, you have to learn how to set boundaries. This week, I'm going to teach you how to create healthy boundaries that will not only improve your relationship with other people, but it will also improve your relationship with you. Hi there, my friends. Right now, I bet you fall into one of two categories when it comes to setting boundaries. You either use them as a weapon to get your way in relationships, or you set them and don't follow through with them. In either scenario, you aren't getting the true benefits that come from establishing boundaries correctly in your relationships. So let's talk about what boundaries are, first of all. Boundaries are the rules that we set for ourselves in relationships. They are they're a form of protection for our personal, physical, and mental space. Setting a boundary just means that you are deciding in advance what you will do when someone violates your space, whether it be personal, physical, or emotional. Boundaries make it clear what you will and you will not tolerate in your life. When you set boundaries correctly in your relationships, you create more intimacy and more connection because you're showing up as the most genuine and honest version of yourself. There's no underlying hidden secret animosity or even resentment because you've already set clear intentions for the relationship. Now, what a lot of people do is they'll set a boundary with the intention to try and control the other person. So, really, what they're creating is an ultimatum. You're trying to control the other person's behavior by telling them what they have to do. This could look like withholding love, affection, and attention from someone until they do what you want them to do. Have you ever ignored someone until they did what you asked? That would be an example of a poorly set boundary. When you do this, you create the exact opposite of love, connection, and intimacy in your relationships. What you do is set up a pattern of demands all around your personal needs. You think you need them to behave in a certain way in order for you to feel positive emotions, when the reality is you need to learn how to manage your own thoughts and feelings because you are responsible for them. Controlling someone else's behavior in order to feel a certain way is a red flag that you have an unmanaged mind. And it fosters an environment of dishonesty. The other person in the relationship is trying to please you or keep the peace by any means necessary. So they may never fully express or feel safe to express how they feel. And then you're not being honest with yourself about the root cause of why you feel the way that you do. It may seem that you are in control, but you are actually in a position of personal weakness because you are handing over the regulation of how you feel to other people and their behavior. The other behavior that I see when it comes to setting boundaries is people not upholding their boundary when it's violated. In order to have a boundary, you have to have first made clear what you will do if someone steps outside of the rules of your relationship, and then you have to actually do that thing. So let's be clear here. If you don't follow through with the consequence of violating your boundaries, you simply have an optional request. People who fall in this category are generally people pleasers by nature. They have thoughts that by expressing a boundary and following through with the consequences, they are somehow being unkind or cruel. They think that the other person will think that they're being mean. Here's why that is such a problem. When someone violates a boundary that you have communicated to them over and over again, you start to become resentful. You become disgruntled and feel disrespected because your thought will always be that they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't do what you have asked them not to do. That thought is going to create negative feelings. And we know that all of the actions that we take or don't take are driven by our feelings. So think about it. If you're feeling angry or sad, frustrated, or disappointed because you keep thinking that someone should be doing something differently than they are, what do? Maybe you yell and scream, or maybe you nag and repeat yourself over and over again to get your point across and try and make them see their wrongs, only to get you even more frustrated. And what don't you do when you feel this way? Maybe you're passive about it and you don't speak up at all. You continue to allow the boundary violation to happen over and over again, growing more and more resentful each time. Meanwhile, the other person is chilling. The other person is fine. They are allowed to continue in the behavior that suits them with seemingly no consequences. And in the end, whichever way you respond, chances are you will be seen as angry, mad, or mean in the long run because of your actions. This cuts off any possibility of you having a true, loving, genuine connection with the other person and with you. That is the biggest issue with not setting boundaries correctly. It's the damage it does to your relationship with you. When you are using boundaries to control other people, you're robbing yourself of control. You're positioned to be at the mercy of other people's behavior in order to feel a certain way. You're not being honest with yourself about the true reason you feel the way that you do, which is your own thoughts. Did you know that you can be happy whether the people in your life are doing what you think they should be doing or not? Did you know that people don't have to behave in a manner that pleases you in order for you to be happy or peaceful or content? It all comes down to your thoughts. And when you don't take the time to honestly address why you feel the need to control other people in the first place, you will always be at a disadvantage. When you aren't following through with the consequences of violating your boundaries, you are teaching yourself that your needs don't matter. You are dishonoring yourself by disregarding your personal, physical, and emotional space. It makes it difficult for you to love yourself genuinely because you are constantly reiterating that your feelings are inferior to those of other people. You are constantly telling yourself that you don't matter. Now, I don't want you to feel bad if you find yourself in either one of these categories. Some of you may be in both. You may be using boundaries to control your partner or your children at home while not following through with your boundaries at work. So you can threaten to withhold attention or affection from your partner if they don't do what you want them to, but you always work past when you're told. You always work past when you told your boss you would or told your clients you were available. Wherever you find yourself, I want to teach you how to correctly set boundaries so that you can not only create healthy relationships with other people, but with yourself as well. Here's what I want you to do. First, you need to communicate clearly what your boundary is. So often we get frustrated because we are thinking that the other person should just know. They should know, or that they are being rude somehow, when the truth is that the boundary was never clearly communicated. It was never communicated properly. So here's an example. Let's say you have a girlfriend that loves to gossip. We all got one. And you've decided that this year you don't want to entertain gossiping about other people and you want to focus on how you can improve your own life. You don't have time for that this year. So you might say to your girlfriend, listen, I'm really focusing on improving my life right now, and I don't want to spend our time together gossiping about other people. Now, you've communicated your boundary, but you're not done yet. The second step is clearly communicating what you will do if the boundary is violated. The consequence of a boundary always states what you will do, not the other person. So, in our gossiping friend example, you would say, if you start gossiping when we're together, I'm going to end the conversation. I'm going to leave. I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to just talk to you later. And it may feel really difficult. It may feel extremely difficult for you to say this. You may feel like you're being mean, but again, think about how it would feel to be on the phone with your friend day after day after day, listening to them gossip while you're getting irritated and annoyed and thinking, she shouldn't be doing that. Clearly stating the boundary and consequence for violating is the most loving, genuine thing you can do in a relationship. But let's be clear here. The other person is allowed to respond in any way that they would like. If a person has been allowed to exhibit a particular behavior in a relationship for a long time, they probably will not like it when you establish a new boundary. And that's okay. They are allowed to feel any way that they choose, just like you are. So be prepared that your new boundary may not create a whole lot of excitement coming from the other person, but that doesn't mean you have to change it. It means that you allow them to decide how they will behave moving forward. You aren't controlling their behavior. They have the free will to continue it, and you have the responsibility to yourself to follow through with the consequences if they do. And that is the third and most important step here, following through, doing what you say you will do if the boundary is violated. When you don't follow through, your boundary isn't taken seriously. If you're a parent, you have seen this with your children. You know how we tell them that they need to stop doing something. And if they don't, we're going to take away their toys or take away something that's important to them. And then they don't stop doing that thing. And we don't follow through with taking away their toy because we know that if we do, we're going to have to deal with them crying or having an attitude or throwing a tantrum. And most of the time, we just don't want to deal with it. So it's easier to just let them slide until you realize that they don't take your boundaries seriously at all, and they are constantly testing the limits with you. We end up frustrated when really we've taught them over time that we aren't really serious at all because we never completely follow through. The truth is, until you set the expectations for your relationships and then follow through, nothing in your relationship will change. Setting boundaries the correct way with the intention of honoring both you and the other person is the most loving, honest, genuine thing you can do in any relationship. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast and let your girlfriends know we're over here leveling up every single week. My friend April said, I am truly excited about this podcast. Already, Dr. K has presented information that will help me to expose and uncover self-limiting beliefs. This podcast offers the opportunity to be totally transformed by the renewing of our minds. Super excited, Dr. K. Thank you so much, April. Okay, that's all for now, but before you go, I want you to write down the name of that person that you've been thinking about this whole episode. I want you to take out your journal and write out 3 reasons your relationship with that person would benefit from setting boundaries from a place of love, not annoyance, not trying to control them, but from a place of genuinely wanting to have a better relationship. Then I want you to write out 1 healthy boundary you will set with that person, including what you will do if the boundary is violated. Spend some time on this and make a decision on when you're going to communicate it and do it, my friends. If you are loving the information that I'm sharing here and you're learning, I want you to do a couple of things. First, I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel and also subscribe to the podcast. It's available wherever you listen to your podcast. Then I want you to tell a girlfriend because we are over here leveling up and we don't want to leave anybody behind. So those are your responsibilities. Those are your homework. Subscribe, tell a girlfriend, and I'll see you here next Monday.